The last night unraveled like a film reel, burning through the projector, one frame at a time, melting into silence. Ethan stood by the window of their old apartment, city lights trembling through glass, streaked with rain. Mara's words still rang in his chest. "You'll miss me someday." He had smiled then, a hollow curve, masking the truth that he already did. Now, in the hush between thunder and memory, he felt the weight of her absence like gravity, reclaiming its own. The camera of his mind rewound to all the things unsaid, all the glances they mistook for goodbye. And somewhere in that ache he wondered, not if she was right, but whether missing her would ever stop feeling like home. Ethan didn't post about the breakup. He posted about starting over. A single clip of him turning their old bedroom into a workspace. White walls, plants, vinyl spinning low jazz. The internet called it healing. He called it survival. But when the video went viral, strangers commented like they'd lived the story themselves. "You're free now," they wrote. Not knowing freedom sometimes hums the same note as loneliness. Mara scrolled one night, glass of wine in hand when the video appeared, his smile framed by her old curtains. The algorithm, cruel and efficient, delivered his piece straight to her screen. She watched it twice. The second time, slower. The comments cut deeper than his absence ever had. "He's glowing. Sometimes letting go is love." She muted the sound but couldn't silence the heartbeat of what-ifs inside her chest. The story spread like wildfire, clips stitched, soundtracks remixed, comments dissecting a love they never knew. Ethan's inbox filled with strangers calling him an inspiration, asking for advice. Yet, every message felt like a translation error. They saw renewal. He still saw her shadow in every frame. Healing had gone viral, but grief still lived offline. Mara deleted his videos from her feed, but not before saving one, him laughing mid-edit, unaware of the world watching. She didn't know why she kept it. Maybe because the sound of his laugh still filled the room the way sunlight once filled her mornings. She whispered to the dark, "Maybe I was right. You do miss me. You just don't know it's me you're missing." Fame is strange when born from heartbreak. Ethan's workspace became his stage. Brands reached out, interviews followed. They called him the man who turned pain to purpose. But purpose was not what he felt at night, when the camera stopped rolling and silence reclaimed the edges of his breath. Sometimes he'd film extra takes, not because he needed them, but because talking to a lens was easier than talking to no one. Mara's friends sent her clips with captions like, "Isn't this your ex?" She'd reply with a practiced laugh, the kind that hides the tremor beneath. But one night, curiosity won. She searched his name, scrolling through thousands of videos, each one brighter, cleaner, lighter than the last. Yet in one unguarded frame she saw it. A pause, a fleeting glance at the door behind him as if waiting for someone who'd never walk through again. The internet crowned him a symbol of self-love. But Ethan knew the truth. He wasn't rebuilding himself. He was documenting absence until it looked like growth. Every like was a heartbeat borrowed from strangers. Still, it was something. He told himself, maybe Mara would see. Maybe she'd understand the version of him that learned to survive without her. Mara found herself watching his live streams in secret, never commenting. His laugh was the same, half sincere, half wounded, but now, thousands of hearts fluttered on screen when he spoke. She realized something cruel. The world loved the version of him she had helped build, the one she'd never truly met. It wasn't jealousy. It was recognition, twisted and late. Late one evening, Ethan opened an old draft folder. Inside were videos never posted, small moments, captured when he still believed she might come back. He watched one, her humming off screen as he painted, the camera forgotten and steady. For the first time in months, he didn't hit delete. He just let it play. The sound of her name still lingered in his drafts. Ethan had typed it more times than he'd admit. Mara. Followed by words that never felt enough. One night, under the low hum of city rain, he almost pressed send. The message was simple. I hope you're okay. But simplicity felt dangerous. He closed the app, saved the draft, and told himself silence was the kindest language left between them. Yet that same night, Mara dreamed of him standing in the doorway, saying nothing at all. Mara woke before dawn, her chest heavy with that familiar ache, the kind that greets you like an old friend. She scrolled through her phone, thumb trembling over old messages. There it was, last seen recently. That tiny green dot pulsed like a heartbeat. For a moment, she typed 2. A mirror of his ghosted intention, then erased it. She didn't need to send it. The universe, cruel and poetic, already seemed to know. The internet had begun to move on. New stories, new heartbreaks, new heroes of recovery. But Ethan's inbox still filled with strangers thanking him for saving them from their own endings. It felt unfair. How he could teach them peace while still studying it himself. In the quiet between uploads, he opened one of their old photos, cropped her out instinctively, and hated himself for doing it. Mara walked past the cafe they once loved. The barista, who remembered her smile, said softly, "He still comes here sometimes." She nodded, pretending not to care, but every heartbeat felt like an approaching footstep. She ordered his old drink, black coffee with honey, and sat by the window where they used to talk about forever. The taste of it was unbearable, and yet she drank it to the last drop. That Ethan finally broke his silence. Not to her, but to himself. He recorded a video titled, "What I Would Have Said." No hashtags, no edits. Just him, raw and trembling. "Sometimes healing means forgiving the parts of you that stayed too long," he said. When he finished, he didn't upload it. He just sat there, watching his own face tell him what he'd been too afraid to believe. The video leaked. Somehow, someone found it, his unposted confession, buried deep in an old cloud folder. Within hours, it spread faster than any he'd shared willingly. The internet called it the rawest video of the year. Ethan watched the view count rise like a fever. His vulnerability was viral again. But this time, it wasn't curated. It was real, exposed, unedited. He didn't know what terrified him more. The invasion or the fact that he didn't want to take it down. Mara saw it too. Her breath caught before she realized it was him. Unfiltered, breaking in ways he never had in her presence. It wasn't the words that undid her. It was the silence between them, the pauses that still spoke her name. For the first time since leaving, she felt something shift. Not pity, not nostalgia, just recognition. He was finally grieving the same story she'd been living in secret. Oh, the comments poured in, millions of strangers analyzing his heartbreak like a case study. Ethan stopped reading after the 1,000th shell regretted someday. He didn't want her villainized. He didn't want to be the hero. He just wanted to be forgotten. Just long enough to start again. But virality has no mercy for quiet hearts. Every interview request, every podcast invitation felt like reopening a wound for entertainment. Mara's phone buzzed nonstop. People tagged her, messaged her, connected the dots she thought were invisible. The comment sections turned her into a myth. The lost muse. The one who left. She deactivated everything, but the story followed her offline. In the grocery store, she overheard whispers. That's her. Shame tasted metallic on her tongue. She went home and poured out her wine, watching the red swirl down the drain like an apology she'd never sent. Late that night, Ethan received a notification. A private message. No profile picture. No words. Just a single heart emoji. He stared at it. Pulse steady. Then faintly smiled. He didn't reply. Instead, he closed his laptop and stepped outside for the first time in weeks. The city was quiet, washed clean by rain. Somewhere in another apartment, Mara whispered into the dark, "I saw it." The world, unpredictable as ever, staged their reunion in the least cinematic of places. A bookstore. Ethan had gone there to escape the noise, to feel something unrecorded. Mara was there because she'd begun reading again, chasing solace in stories not her own. When their eyes met across the quiet aisle, neither moved. The air between them thickened, not with anger or longing, but the fragile peace of recognition. Time didn't rewind. It just paused long enough to remind them that endings never fully end. He spoke first. Just her name. Nothing rehearsed, nothing poetic. She smiled faintly. That same half-curve he remembered from the morning she left. There was no accusation in her gaze. Only exhaustion softened by time. "You've been busy," she said. "So have you," he replied. Their voices wove through the silence like two threads still tangled after being cut. They walked to the nearby park, a neutral ground where stories could breathe. Leaves crunched beneath their shoes, the world around them pretending not to eavesdrop. She told him she saw the video. He nodded. "It wasn't supposed to be public." She smiled without bitterness. Maybe it needed to be. For a moment, their silence said everything. The weight of forgiveness, the gentleness of distance. They sat on a bench that faced the pond where light fractured into thousands of trembling reflections. Mara asked, "Do you ever miss it?" He hesitated. "I miss who I was when we still believed in forever." She looked down, nodding. "Me, too." Their words weren't confessions. They were acknowledgments. The kind people say when love no longer needs to prove its existence. When they parted, there were no promises, no exchanged numbers, just a shared glance that carried both gratitude and release. Ethan watched her walk away until the crowd dissolved her silhouette into anonymity. He didn't chase her. He didn't need to. Healing, he realized, wasn't about forgetting someone. It was about remembering them differently. Months unfolded like new pages in a book that no longer mentioned her name. Ethan's video shifted. Less about pain, more about possibility. He started filming strangers, capturing moments of quiet joy. A child chasing pigeons, an old couple holding hands, rain falling on empty cafe tables. His followers noticed. "You've changed," they wrote. And for once, he agreed. Healing wasn't loud anymore. It was gentle, invisible, like the way morning light touches things without needing to own them. Mara moved to a smaller apartment, one with wide windows and plants she didn't forget to water. She started writing again. Letters she'd never send, poems about endings that weren't failures but transformations. Sometimes she'd see Ethan's new videos and feel nothing but warmth. It wasn't longing anymore. It was recognition, the kind that doesn't hurt to hold. Ethan met someone new, not in a cinematic way, but in a grocery store aisle while reaching for the same loaf of bread. Her name was Clara. Their first conversation was about recipes. Their second, about the weight of old memories. He didn't tell her about Mara that day. He didn't need to. The way Clara laughed was enough proof that the heart can learn new rhythms without erasing the old ones. Mara found a photo of herself and Ethan tucked inside an old novel. For a moment, she almost threw it away. But instead, she slipped it back between the pages, right where it belonged. Not gone, just archived. She realized that closure isn't deleting the past. It's learning to stop rereading it. Ethan posted a new video. No words. No music, just the city at dawn, people beginning their day. The camera lingering on light, touching every face equally. It didn't go viral. It didn't need to. For once, it was enough to be unseen, alive, and at peace with the simple beauty of moving forward. Years later, silence became their truest language. Not absence, not avoidance, just peace. Ethan's name still floated in distant corners of the internet, stitched into montages about resilience. But he rarely filmed now. His art had returned to stillness. Photos of light through windows, hands reaching, shadows curling like music. Somewhere in the city, someone was probably watching his old videos, learning how to let go. And that was enough. Mara taught poetry workshops now, helping strangers name their own ghosts. She never mentioned Ethan, but her voice softened when she spoke of love. On quiet nights, she'd step onto her balcony, coffee in hand, and look out over the same skyline they once shared. No longer as a memory, but as proof that life continues whether or not we watch it happen. One evening, Ethan stumbled upon her name online, a small article quoting one of her poems. "Some people leave to teach us how to stay." He read it twice, then smiled. The universe, ever cinematic, had folded their stories back together, not to rekindle, but to remind. Healing had never been a destination. It was the quiet acknowledgement that both had arrived. In a box under his bed, Ethan still kept a few of her letters. Creases soft, ink fading. He never reread them anymore, but he didn't throw them away either. They were proof of something beautiful, unrepeatable, unfinished. Sometimes the past isn't a place to escape from. It's a language we once spoke fluently, and now remember only in whispers. Somewhere far across the city, at the same hour, Mara watched the rain trace rivers down her window pane. She smiled without knowing why. Perhaps she felt it. The shared silence of two souls finally resting on parallel paths. There were no more words to send, no ghosts left to chase, just the quiet, unspoken truth that both had lived, loved, lost, and learned.